Amanda, EERA meeting last Thursday. Did the Thurrock councillors, Thurrock community leaders, feel they're on the outside looking in of a huge decision regarding the future of Thurrock?
Very much so. Very much so. And it's difficult to explain without the diagrams and the all the information and everything else, but the numbers are really scary in terms of looking at Thurrock as a borough being about this size, of which 60% is the green belt, and actually having something like 26% of the total for the whole of Norfolk or Cambridgeshire, which in comparison are kind of this size. We've got more green belt, we've got bigger issues with flooding, we've got roads at 90% capacity, issues that were listed in there that any local resident would be able to tell you about access to health services, dentists. All these things unfortunately aren't planning considerations, and it's really difficult sometimes as somebody who's been elected as a representative to sit in a meeting like that and be given a document that's pretty much telling us what's going to be done in our borough, regardless of whether or not we agree with it.
You felt that in light of what's been happening to schools, or not going to happen to schools with the LSE, that you felt there should be some form of moratorium. Can you explain that?
I think the council's been quite clear this year with its administration in terms of what our priorities will need to be. We've got really big ambitions for our young people and for the skills and education base in general, and the further and higher education complex was such a big part of that, as was the Palmer's development. So to take that away is essentially taking away the cornerstone of what we were looking to develop for Thurrock in the future, and it takes away the ambitions of our young people who might want to stay close to home in order to study. It's like just pull the rug out from under us. So in terms of the withdrawal of funding for that, in terms of being told that basically improving the infrastructure here, which was said at the meeting with roads and things, is just too expensive to do, given the fact that there's now a question mark over the provision of new health services, and the hospital is another case where ground hasn't been broken on the project, so we don't know whether that's definitely going to happen. I just don't see that the target we were already given of 18,500 houses is going to be something that we can manage, as long as those infrastructure issues are not material planning considerations.
So we could have by 2031 250,000 people living here in Thurrock. If you look at the figures and you take it to, I guess, some form of, extreme. And it could be, Shanghai by the Thames, if you want to take the great visions. But it also could be, if you look at what you're saying, without the schools and the infrastructure and hospitals, simply just one mass of housing with creaking roads, isn't it? What can you do about that?
That's the big concern, and that's why it's really important, this consultation, that the residents of Thurrock actually pick up the consultation, turn off EastEnders, and fill it in, and just say we can't cope with this, it's time to turn off the tap. I was quite interested in the definition of sustainability that was used at the end of the document, which said that it shouldn't improve the quality of life for current residents at the expense of those in the future, which feels to me possibly like it's the wrong way round, because basically what it's saying is as long as everything's okay 25 years down the line, it doesn't actually matter what's going on for people at the moment, and that just feels incredibly unfair.
In a point of democracy and accountability, you've got a huge consultation there, huge, which hardly any of the press knew about, whether it's right or wrong. We've got 9 or 10 Tory councillors, just one Labour, and a smattering of community leaders. Would you not say that's really worrying, a lack of people who got that message, so to speak?
I think it's very difficult because as community leaders, having been to that meeting, we will now be saying to people, you need to get involved in this consultation, and we would have been saying that whether or not there was a public meeting. I understand it wasn't organised by the council, I understand it was organised by EERA. I'm not sure how they publicised it, we got it as members, but I mean it's really interviews like this, going out to the public and saying to them, it really is time for you to get involved. And that's democracy. You know, as much as we can sit in the room and represent people, actually there does come a time where people have to stand up and say, yep, you've represented us at that, that's fine, but now we're going to do our bit. We're going to fill in this consultation and say what it means to us.
With EERA possibly in charge of making huge decisions in respect to people of Thurrock, and it's something that you're concerned with, in the same way, do you want to see planning powers come back within the remit of Thurrock Council? Is that wise?
We've never here in, you know, there have been several things that have come through recently through government policy that have looked at whether or not things could be pushed into decision making regionally, and we've never supported that, because anything that's done in terms of proportional representation, because Thurrock's so small, you know, you just don't get that voice at the table, which, considering, you know, the scope of the decisions that we've been talking about, again, it just seems incredibly unfair. Councillors, whatever party, you know, whatever creed they believe in, have been elected as representatives, and I think there's a feeling in the community that we should be making the decisions because we're on the doorstep, we're face to face with people, they can contact us, and therefore we should be the people really that are in charge of making the decisions, not somebody from Cambridge or Norfolk. And for me, this isn't about NIMBYism, this isn't not in my backyard stuff. If Norfolk decide that they want to grow by 10,000 houses, that's absolutely fine, but we need to be quite clear as well in Thurrock that whatever happens in Essex and nearby is going to have just as big an impact on our infrastructure because of the fact that we're such a gateway to elsewhere. So for me, you know, we need to be saying, and almost pushing it back to the region and saying to them, you know, if you're not happy with this either, we should collectively be saying that we can't do this anymore. And in that sense, you know, as soon as planning